Thanks for tuning in for this series of lectures about the 12 stages of the life cycle. This will be a very exciting journey. We will go through all the stages of the life cycle. This short video is just an introduction in the framing that we will be having in the journey when we will be traveling through the 12 stages. So this series of lectures, it's a part of a broader concept about turning your weakness into your strength. So more events will be published in the future and more videos. And if you are interested in knowing more about it, you can tune in at umatribe.com and find more information there about the whole broader concept of how to turn your weakness into your strength. So as I said, I will just do a quick intro to this series of lectures where I will present the overview of the general framework we will be having, so you can dive in the topics with more clarity from which angles are we approaching the whole journey through every stage of the human development. So we will first go through the short explanation about the holistic approach, then how our challenges and needs change through time, then the hierarchical order of the three main systems that the human being is comprised of. Then we will explore a little bit the synergistic interconnectedness of how all these systems work with each other, and then how they are integrated and which approaches we will use going through these lectures. So this will be a disclaimer. This will be a very basic, simple, straightforward brush through these concepts and topics, because literally every one of them, it would need a very in-depth exploration and a lecture in itself. But as I said, just to bring a little bit more of clarity of how we will journey through the 12 stages, we will do a brush through for you to have a better overview. And at the end of the intro, we will just have a few words about homeopathy for those of you that maybe never heard about it or are not very clear what homeopathy is about. So we'll give just a little intro to help you to understand better when we use the word homeopathy or what it's about through the lectures. And then will be the first of the series of lectures that will be led by my colleague Kobi Nehustan about the pre-pregnancy stage and the conception stage. So every lecture will be covering 2 stages and also have a practical approach and hopefully generate practical insights for you. So let me first quickly just introduce myself and my colleague. My name is Cristina Ray. I am a classical homeopathic consultant and a holistic nutritionist with over 15 years of experience, and I am specialized in stress, anxiety, and infertility. And I will go just briefly through the extensive bio of my colleague Kobi Nehustan. He's also a classical homeopathic consultant and a Chinese medical doctor. He has over 30 years of experience. He has been teaching over 20 years internationally, and he has established clinic in Israel, Spain, Kenya, and London. He's a prolific writer as well. Was writing for 5 years as a columnist in the Israeli Health magazine about holistic health. In his blog, there are over 750 articles about health and well-being. And he also co-authored the best-selling book for homeopaths, Wondrous Order. So I'm really excited to dive into this journey of the 12 stages. So let's dive right in. We will go through the holistic approach, then then we will be covering the hierarchical order of the 3 main systems that compose the human being, and how these three systems have a synergistic interconnectedness in between them, and then which systems we will be integrating in this specific set of lectures about the 12 stages. To conclude, we'll have just a few words about homeopathy for those of you that really don't know much about it or have some unanswered questions or perhaps a little bit vague understanding of what homeopathy is. Let's dive right in. Oh yes, and then in the next video, right, because this will be a series of videos, if you are not coming at the event and you are watching this days or weeks later, the next video, it will be about the first two stages, so it's the pre-pregnancy stage and the conception stage. In the purpose of all this intro is just to try to explain the basics as well as possible. I cannot stress enough how important it's to have a problem framed with clarity for be able to have any success in understanding and solving any problem or any system, for the matter of fact, or any process. So this intro will be focused in trying to bring some clarity what we will be dealing with that many times perhaps seems obvious, but it's really not. So we may be more aware that our physicality changes when we are 3 years old and when we are 17 years old, 30 or 60 years old. Probably many times we don't pay as much attention, especially when we are immersed in our day-to-day, how our psychological needs and emotional patterns and mental framing of the situation actually evolves and changes, and what influenced that change and how that change influences how we deal with the problems or in our day-to-day life routine. So we will be touching, and hopefully I hope you will have this in the forefront of your awareness every time we cruise through a different life stage together, how this life stage is actually affecting your life and what you have to learn from it, or which part of your personality has to be integrated, which are the new elements, the new flavors, the new challenges that you are meeting, what these challenges are trying to develop in you, so you will be ready for the next developmental stage, for the new responsibilities, for the more evolved stages on the journey of the human evolution. So, as I just mentioned, all the different levels of the human being evolve, right? As the physical, the physicality, also our emotional needs and our mental framing. So where is your weakness? And how your weakness changes. And so this is a very interesting journey to always try to understand what is currently actually your transformational challenge. And having more clarity about that will definitely help. So each of us has an inborn and acquired sensitivity that we will be covering more and focusing more on in the first two stages. That it's the pre-pregnancy stage and the conception stage, and will be covered as well in the pregnancy and delivery stage. In those, many times we do not really take into account when we perhaps have some behavior patterns or emotional reactions or mental framing of a situation. It's really interesting to see actually the root cause or where they come from, like in extreme circumstances, as maybe you're familiar with children of ladies that experienced a trauma before the pregnancy. Their brain develops in a different way, and it's measurable 10 years later. I can link the studies in the description box below. So it's really important to pay attention to how malleable we are, and perhaps how many things are we currently dealing with that come from our past. So how did each life period marked us and how we managed to integrate the lessons, etc. This we will be trying to achieve all this clarity by having a map of the territory. So as you can imagine, when you are into your daily problems, we are all usually focused more in the daily grind, or perhaps in the current relationship issue or career challenges or dealing with the pandemic. So we are very immersed in the story, and it's really hard to have like a broader view and more clarity. But if we have a map, the situation changes, meaning we have a bit more of freedom, we have a better awareness of what each stage demands from us, and perhaps in the past what we maybe missed in some stage and it's bothering us still now. So it's really good, and we really hope that this will add value into your daily experience, having a map of the territory. A very light question. So, who are you? Yeah, it's very, very, very easy to answer in 2 words. So, probably just looking at this question, you had few different, streams of thought simultaneously. But the human being, it's actually a very complex system. And as I said, we really always try to focus to have strong basics, to build on these strong basics a clear understanding, because if you see the sparkling, the clarity precedes success. It's very, very important to be able to frame the problem properly and understand the systems we are dealing with to have any chance of productive, successful resolutions or solutions. So here we go. The physical level. Perhaps we are the most familiar and talking most of the time, especially when referring to health and well-being in general, to the physical level of the human being, right? And as you can see already, the physical level is extremely complex. So we have many, many different systems, and each of these systems, it's interconnected with all the other systems. So that's really challenging for modern science. We are in the last 10 years putting more endeavor in the research of how each system influences the other systems. We definitely know that they are interconnected. They work in synergy for your brain and nervous system to produce your behavior and your digestive system, etc. But there is still very, very little knowledge about how, for example, the hormones, the endocrine system influences the reproductive system, but also the digestive system, the urinary system, the nervous system. And it's really hard to understand all the branches of how the rippling effect goes. So something very simple that you can experience in your daily life, or you know somebody that experienced it. For example, let's say endocrine system, when you experience fear, right? The cortisol level rises, and that may produce palpitations on the cardiovascular system. And then you may produce fast breathing in the respiratory system. Or, for example, businessmen, that it's a very known thing that they are very stressed, very hyped, with a more shallow type of respiration, and they tend to have digestive ulcers. So we can see that how stress, so nervous system, influences the digestive system. And we can go on and on, right? How one system influences the other systems. So this is just on the physical level. So we see how one system in the physical level, let's say nervous system, a trauma, influences your urinary system. You have a urine escape once you face certain circumstances because you have a traumatic experience before. Or how different physical systems influence each other. For example, okay, we will not dive into more examples because we can go on and on and on with different examples. You got the point. Basically, different systems in the physical level influence each other, and it's still very hard to grasp, as you will see in the next slide, why and how. So this is just a tiny part of the digestive system, that is the metabolic pathways. I'm amazed and really kudos to all these scientists that put this chart together. As they say, you can update it literally every 6 months. To put it in very simple words, these are the biochemical reactions of how, when you will eat tomorrow, a potato or a strawberry will become your brain. Like literally how what we eat, it's metabolized and becomes our part of our cells. So I hope you grasp the idea that we are really, really complex already just on the physical level. But then we have the emotional and mental level too. So I just put the disturbances in the some of the main disturbances in the emotional level and mental levels, just to have a general grasp, because as you see in the chart here, and as you probably experience by dealing with other people and sometimes with yourself, we have a huge complexity of different emotional states and mental states. Some people say over 100, some people say 300. So it's perhaps those two systems are even much more complex than the physical system. So it's good to be aware of the complexity we are dealing with, as we said before. If we have clarity of the systems we are dealing with or how we state and position the problem, we are much, much more likely to be able to solve it and have a successful outcome. So, as we just mentioned, I will not give more examples. We can get lost into so many examples, how, for example, as we said before, the emotional level, when you experience grief because of a loss of a loved one. For example, somebody loses its son, or her or his son, or a loved one, and so has prolonged grief. On the emotional level, they may become depression, and on the mental level, lower concentration and socialization capacity, and sometimes influence the physical level as well. For example, developing migraines from their own. So it started on the emotional level and then influenced the other levels. Sometimes may stay just on the physical level. For example, you have a genetic predisposition towards arthritis, and you eat more inflammatory, you have a more inflammatory diet, you don't have a really, really optimal lifestyle, let's say, and you will have arthritis because the situation will be grounded on the physical level. Then, generally speaking, usually after having, for example, arthritis on the physical level for many years, in many cases, it gravitates to the emotional level. People become depressed or irritable because of their physical condition, and maybe in 2 decades they may develop mental tiredness, etc. Right? So every level influences another level, sometimes in between one level from one system to the other, sometimes to the other levels, right? So then the question arises, we have a very complex systems with all these synergistic effects. What is the order? Where is the map? How these things work? Which level is more important? How these levels? How goes the rippling effect when something happens? So this is a very wide topic, as you can imagine. We will not be covering it now here, but just to have an idea of how what we are dealing with works, right? We can have another whole lecture about it eventually. So this is just a general manifestation about the different levels. As we said, there is a hierarchy in the interconnectedness and very clear path. And it's very, if you have the clarity what happens on the physical level and how this influences the emotional level, you are able to track the root cause. That is, for example, very well explained in the classical homeopathic system. So just to stress again, it's really essential, as we have seen the complexity of the systems that we are dealing with, to have a holistic approach. If we just have a very narrow focus and focus only on the cardiovascular system and don't see how the nervous system, the stress, influences the heart disease or the cardiovascular system, we have very little chance of long-term success. So we have to be able to have a broader view, a more holistic approach for generating long-term success. And we will be using the same view in the 12 lectures, in these lectures of the 12 stages. Then this is just, it's again a broad topic, but it's really good to keep in mind. As you can see here, a problem well stated, it's a problem half solved. So it's really good to have this in the forefront of our awareness. What is the generative principle, the generative condition, the root cause of what is happening to us now? Mainly we are focused only on the area above the surface, right? The symptoms, the disturbance, the thing that bothers us, whether it's an allergy or restlessness or sleeplessness or anxiety. But this, as you can see, it's usually just the top of the iceberg, and it's good to be aware of that and have a broader perception about the underlying cause, right? Where is the generative principle? What it's causing this that may be just current weight gain, right? It's from the physical level, emotional, mental. It's from long time ago. It's something recent, etc. It's good to have an open mind about the width of the territory if we want long-term solutions. So this is just a little chart for a general view about the integration of the three systems that we will be using in this series of the 12 stages. So it's developmental psychology, homeopathy, and ancient wisdom tradition, how they overlap, right? And how we can take the best of each of these fields to have a broader and more in-depth view of the territory that we will be exploring together. So the developmental psychology, as you may be more familiar with, is a scientific approach which aims to explain growth and change and consistency through the lifespan. Then we have homeopathy, that it's a healing system, that its strong point is that it affects the physical, emotional, and mental diseases, understanding the root cause or the generative principle of the problem in any of these levels. And then we have something that it's really worth stressing and not to be overlooked, that it's the ancient wisdom traditions that usually have this broader and in-depth view that helps us understand the larger context of the human condition and personal development and what we are going through. As we said, the transition from one stage to the next generally, mainly for us, feels like a natural process. We perhaps don't really put attention to it. Meanwhile, sometimes we may experience it as being a little bit stuck, right? So sometimes some things, like some parts of ourselves, we feel it's creating problems, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental. So it feels like a part of our personality may block us. And this may be because we are not integrating currently the challenges very well, or perhaps something from the previous stages needs to be addressed again and integrated in a better way. So we'll be covering things from this direction. Homeopathy addresses the manifestation of all these developmental difficulties on all the three levels. So it facilitates the manifestation of our fullest potential, because in homeopathy we see health. The definition of health in homeopathy is not the absence of discomfort or the absence of disease or a symptom. So it's not like take this and your symptom goes away, that it's not health in homeopathy. In homeopathy, health, it's being free from physical disturbances, emotional and mental disturbances, to be able to fulfill and manifest our fullest potential and have the highest life quality possible. So we will be talking, now we transition to the little small part, a few words about homeopathy. We will be talking from the using the framework of classical homeopathy, right? So it's the most traditional form, the most holistic one. So you can use homeopathy also just to treat symptoms and take the shoulder pain away or the allergy away. But if you don't really treat the root cause, that it's not classical homeopathy. If we put it in a very simplified manner, it should be a much more extensive explanation about this. So anyways, it's a very individualized system that it has to take in account the uniqueness of every person in their current life stage, their physical, emotional, and mental stage. And another thing, the 12 stages framework, it's not part of homeopathy. Just to make sure, this homeopathy, it's a medical system that it's basically designed to treat disease. So we use the 12 stages in homeopathy as additional tool to help us understand and have a broader view of how to prescribe homeopathy in a more precise way. As mentioned, homeopathy, it's very complex. Yeah, I mean, naturally, if you are dealing with a very complex system as, you know, the human being, already our brain, nervous system, as we said, the physical system, it's very complex. Then the interrelation and synergy with the emotional and mental, the environment, the genetic tendencies, right, the inherited patterns. So it's it has a very, very broad, basically we could say like this, it has a very deep effect, but to have a very deep effect, you have to understand the condition in a very broad way. So it analyzes a specific profile of every current condition, approaching it from the interrelatedness of systems, right? No separated pieces in homeopathy. Something perhaps that we tend to overlook, how the emotional states may be connected with physical disturbances, and this is a very interesting approach we have in homeopathy that actually unveils how your shoulder pain may be a manifestation of you feeling really you being in a period in your life when you feel really overwhelmed by life challenges, and then gives you a very clear path of which aspects you are currently struggle to integrate and be able to cope with, and your system may manifest that in a shoulder pain. Again, it's very simplified. It has so many layers and so many systems to map to be able to understand this, but you got the idea. So who uses homeopathy? Homeopathy is one of the most widely used healing systems in the world. I think according to World Health Organization, currently it's the second most used alternative system of medicine in the world. France is the country with the largest numbers of patients. And currently 60% of the French population is supportive of its use. In India, 100 million people uses homeopathy. They're really strong in homeopathy as well. They have over 11,000 homeopathic hospitals that are using only homeopathy, and 82% of the people that uses homeopathy as their only medical care will not change it for any other system. So it's very strong in different countries, in Austria, in Brazil, in Mexico as well. So if you are interested in more data and the sources to every single study and report of where this information comes from, it's all at umatribe.com, so feel free to go there and surf around. And then just to conclude, as we said, I would really like to stress this. So let's pay attention how things are interconnected and try to not separate things, because we will not be able to have the clarity to solve a complex problems if we don't understand that it's complex. So Usually homeopathy is very used for digestive system, hormonal system, pain management, immune system problems like allergies, asthma. There is lots of positive use and research about these conditions as well. But there it's quite overlooked the effect on the mental level and emotional level. Not only that, especially the interconnectedness of how one system is connected to the other and perhaps is causing the other condition. And let's jump to this because we are extending ourselves. So if you need more information about homeopathy, if you're curious, please feel free to visit homotribe.com. It's a new web page, so we put quite some information up there, but we will still be uploading more material. As you can imagine, there it's a very vast territory that needs to be covered. But yeah, definitely browse around. There it's really interesting information there already if you're curious about. We are just transitioning directly to the summary and just go through to the 5 or 6 main points that we have covered to be able to have clarity and a better understanding and a wider and clearer approach while will we be cruising through the 12 stages. At the beginning we covered how the map of the labyrinth, it's important for us to have more clarity in how we transition from one stage to the other, to not be so immersed in the current condition, to not be able to see a broader picture. Then the integration process, how certain aspects of our personality might block us, and pay more attention to that and see where they come from, or also how we can improve them and perhaps pay attention for the future stages, what they will be demanding from us. Then we explained, or we brushed through actually, how in understanding the complexity of the human being and the essential need, therefore, of a holistic approach, of a wider approach for long-term success. The synergistic interconnectedness, it's basically the 3 levels, the physical, emotional, and mental, that we give few examples here and there, how the condition, how it's there a rippling effect from something that influences one level and how it transitions to the next one. And then we just concluded by the integration of the 3 systems we will use for this set of lectures of the 3 stages, that is developmental psychology, homeopathy, and ancient wisdom traditions, to have the broader overview, therefore more clarity and a better capacity to understand the complexity of our journey through life. And we concluded with a few points about the essence, the holistic essence of homeopathy, and how this can be incredibly useful to unblocking certain troubles of integrations while we cruise from one system to the other, and perhaps bring a little bit more awareness of how something physical that bothers us may have an emotional or mental cause, and how we can fix this by addressing the right generative principle of this cause, right? Glad you managed to stick until the end, and I hope that this little intro presentation added some value to your life, or perhaps broaden your understanding of the width and depth of the things that we are dealing with daily and that shape us. Of course, this was, as you notice, just a general framework, a very brush through a lot of complex topics. So if you are more interested in any of the aspects that were mentioned, please feel free to write the questions down in the description box below, send us an email to info@homotribe.com. And we will be very happy to answer your questions. Will also help us to tailor the content in a way that it's useful for you, that can add value to your life, and understand which level of complexity are you currently interested in, going really in depth into the structure and mapping of different processes you are interested, perhaps about practical stuff about different types of symptoms or about personal development things. So yeah, feel free to contact us and just write us an email. Also, if this was helpful for you, subscribe to the channel. We will be posting regularly different type of content that will be hopefully helpful. And I cannot wait to meet you and see you at the next one and hear from you, hear your opinions and views. So until the next one, please stay curious, stay healthy, stay happy. See you soon.